Picture this. You've just finished reading a groundbreaking book. You feel enlightened. You feel smarter. You feel like your perspective has shifted. But then, a week later, a friend asks you to explain it, and you freeze. You remember the vibe, you might recall one or two vague ideas, but you cannot explain it clearly. You stumble over your words, realizing that the knowledge has slipped through your fingers like sand. Now, be honest. When this happens, do you blame yourself? Do you tell yourself you're lazy or that you just don't have a good memory? Stop doing that. This isn't a result of laziness, and it certainly isn't a sign of low IQ. It is what neuroscientists call a biological mismatch. The biological mismatch. To understand why you forget, we have to look back in time. For over 200,000 years, the human brain did not evolve to learn from text. We didn't evolve to read PDFs or highlight textbooks. We learned from movement. We learned from emotion, threat, and spatial relationships. Think of a prehistoric hunter. He didn't memorize a checklist of safety rules. He remembered a scene. He remembered exactly where the predator was hiding, the face of the rival who betrayed him, and the specific location of the food source. To your ancient brain, text is a strictly modern invention. In fact, your brain treats text as noise until you translate it into the language it actually speaks. And that language consists of three things: context, motion, and emotion. The science: dual coding. Let's dig into the science. The part of your brain responsible for memory, the hippocampus, is literally a navigation system. It thrives on mapping things out physically. When you force it to memorize blocks of gray text, you are fighting against its very nature. Psychologist Alan Pavio discovered a mechanism called dual coding theory. This explains why a simple diagram will always beat a paragraph of text. Here is how it works. Your brain has two primary memory channels. Channel 1 is verbal. This is processed when you read the word table. Channel 2 is visual. This is processed when you actually see a table. When you read, you use one channel. When you see an image, you activate both channels. You create two separate retrieval paths in your brain. This is exactly why you can remember a slide from a presentation years later, but forget a textbook chapter by tomorrow morning. Neuroscience has even identified specific cells called concept neurons, sometimes jokingly called celebrity neurons. These neurons fire for specific characters or faces, not for abstract definitions. If I ask you to memorize the definition of economic inflation, you will struggle. But if I show you a scene of a balloon stealing food off your dinner table, that is impossible to forget. Why? Because your brain thinks in scenes, not in dictionaries. So, if our brains work this way, why do we take notes the way we do? Most of us believe that remembering requires repetition. Read it again, highlight more, summarize harder. But traditional note-taking fails because of one fatal flaw. There is no format change. You take the text from the book and you turn it into text in your notebook, text to text. If the format doesn't change, your brain assumes nothing important happened. It views the activity as mere transcription, not encoding. Real learning requires transformation. You must convert text to image, metaphor, or story. The four-step method. To stop forgetting, you need to stop taking notes and start building mental experiences. Here is the four-step framework to read without wasting effort. Step 1. Meaning extraction. Put down the highlighter. After you finish a section of a book, pause. Ask yourself this question. If I had to teach this concept to someone else, what is the one sentence I would use? Write that single sentence down. This forces your brain to immediately filter the signal from the noise. Step 2. Image plus action. This is the motion rule. The brain loves movement. Static images are okay, but moving images are sticky. Don't just draw a static chart. Visualize the concepts interacting. For example, if you are learning about how antibodies work, don't just visualize a shape. Visualize the antibody violently attacking the virus. The rule is simple. If it moves, it sticks. Step 3. Emotional tagging. Neutral images fade quickly. To make a memory permanent, you need to attach a mild emotion. Evolution prioritized memories that were scary, surprising, or funny because they were essential for survival. So, hack your brain. Add surprise. Make the image bizarre. Add tension. Make the elements conflict. Add irony. Make the situation funny. A boring image is a forgotten image. Step 4. Spatial anchoring. This is where you utilize the hippocampus's navigation skills. Don't just throw ideas on a blank page randomly. Create a mental interface by placing them intentionally in space. Use the left side of the page for causes and the right side for effects. Use the top for abstract principles and the bottom for concrete examples. By anchoring ideas to specific locations, you are mimicking the memory palace technique used by memory champions for 2,500 years. The Visual Feynman Technique. Now, how do you know if you've actually learned it? You use the Visual Feynman Technique. Richard Feynman, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist, was famous for explaining complex ideas in simple terms. The visual adaptation of his rule is this: can you draw it? Verbal explanations can hide confusion. You can use fancy jargon to mask the fact that you don't really get it, but drawings are honest. If you cannot sketch the concept simply, your understanding is fragile. History's greatest thinkers knew this. Leonardo da Vinci didn't just memorize facts, he sketched to connect ideas. Albert Einstein said he thought in pictures and feelings first, and only translated them into math and words later. If your drawing falls apart, go back to the source. It means you haven't encoded it yet. Critical warnings. Before you go, there are 2 modern threats to this process that you need to avoid. Threat number 1 is the AI trap. Artificial intelligence makes thinking optional. This is dangerous for memory. If you use AI to summarize a book before you have read and encoded it yourself, your brain skips the heavy lifting required to build neural pathways. Here is the bad use. ChatGPT summarized this chapter for me. That leads to 0 retention. Here is the good use. ChatGPT, here is my understanding of this concept. Give me a metaphor to explain it better, or test me on this idea. Use AI to stress test your memory, not to replace it. Threat number 2 is ignoring the save button, and the save button is sleep. Visual memories are consolidated, moved from short-term to long-term storage during deep sleep. Studying late into the night without sleeping is like working on a complex graphic design project for 10 hours and then pulling the plug on your computer without hitting save. It might feel productive, but the file is corrupted. Remember, no sleep equals no upload. Conclusion. Learning is not about consuming information. It is about encoding experiences. Your brain hasn't failed you. You just stopped speaking its language. So the next time you sit down to learn, put away the highlighter. Stop transcribing. Start translating. Turn words into scenes. Turn concepts into characters. Turn pages into places. Design your learning the way your brain evolved to use it.